Welcome to Candid Conversations, where our show today's topic is trauma into triumph. Our show is very serious, but yet very common. And today we want to uplift how you can go from trauma to triumph and how you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to stay down. You don't have to stay in the midst of the pain or the midst of the hurt. There are ways out. There are assistances and agencies and practices from a holistic standpoint that can help you in every arena of life, in every step of life, to get you to a healthy and a whole place. First, I want to lift up some of the staggering statistics when it comes to women and trauma. Literally 50% of every woman has experienced at least one traumatic experience in their life. And women are also more likely to have post-traumatic stress disorder even than men. See, trauma is simply a response to an event that a person finds highly stressful. And most trauma starts out literally in the womb or in childhood of individuals. And from those stressful events that's happened in someone's life, it can be all the way from a war zone, natural disaster, an accident, to even some level of violation. But there are wide ranges of trauma that can cause a wide range of physical and emotional symptoms. And it's so vast that this is why we have to start looking under the hood so that we can allow ourselves to know that we don't have to be silent sufferers, and that we can begin to deal and feel with the pain so that we can heal from the pain. I want to play a quick video that shows an overview of some of the ways that you can see signs of trauma that originated in childhood. And then I will also want to lift some of the different variations of trauma that people experience, because a lot of times people don't even understand they're in trauma, and let alone the different variations of trauma. But I want you to know that there is help and there is hope for you, no matter where you are at in life from trauma. You can experience triumph from it. So first, I want to lift the different variations of traumas that there are. There is acute trauma, which is a result from a single stressful or even a dangerous event. Then there's chronic trauma, and that results in or from repeated and prolonged exposure from highly stressful events that even include child abuse or bullying, domestic violence, harassment, physical, psychological, sexual abuse, even accidents, vehicular, childbirth, illnesses, sudden loss of a loved one, being attacked, kidnapped, acts of terrorism, natural disasters, and it just goes on and on. Then there's complex trauma, which is a result from exposure of multiple traumatic events over and over. And then there's something that's called secondary trauma, which is called vicarious trauma. And that's another form of trauma for someone who may be a caretaker or someone who is in close contact with someone who experienced direct trauma. And then you begin to experience side effects of those who you've been in close proximity who are experiencing trauma. And even mental health professionals can be subject to this, because they're directly working with those who are experiencing trauma, and they become high risk for vicarious trauma. And these symptoms can even mirror those who are dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. So today, I know it's very loaded and there's no way that we can cover it all, but I just want us to look at a quick video that just uplifts some signs that you can start to look at to see if you or a close loved one that may have been experiencing or have may been displaying symptoms that you may not have understood. Why are they acting like this? We're going to show some symptoms and signs so that you can adequately know what they're experiencing and get the necessary help, treatment, and get them on their journey to recovery. Anyone who has dealt with trauma, there is no quick fix. It literally is a life journey. But there is hope, there is help, and there are ways out. So let's look at this video, and then we're also going to talk to our special guest, Mary Christ, who overcame her own variations of childhood trauma and how she was able to institute practices in her life on a daily basis to live in a place of triumph over those variations of childhood trauma. Let's take a look.
Trauma is difficult to deal with, whether it's emotional, mental, physical, or sexual. You go through life believing you have overcome it, only to exhibit unhealthy behaviors as an adult. If you're not careful, you will stick to these behaviors for the rest of your life unless you confront the past head on. By allowing yourself to feel, expressing your emotions, processing them, and then letting them go. It's okay to look back, but don't stay there. The following is a list of behaviors adults have after going through childhood trauma. 1. Becoming overwhelmed by fear. You believe playing it safely is the best option, convincing yourself with lies. The problem here is that you're preventing yourself from living fully and pursuing your dreams. 2. Becoming passive aggressive. Trauma has taught you to defend yourself by going around the problem instead of confronting it. You repress your emotions in anger. In time, all those bottled up emotions start to slowly come out. Some of you may think you're avoiding negativity, when in fact you're avoiding your emotions. 3. Overprotecting yourself. You believe that everyone in your life will eventually betray you in one way or another. This prevents you from having fulfilling relationships because you're starving yourself from true connection. Just because you've been hurt in the past by people doesn't mean that everyone has ill intentions. 4. Self-Victimization. When a person becomes used to being the victim, it becomes part of their identity. It's been ingrained in their mind, and sadly, embracing this identity will affect all aspects of their life. It doesn't allow you to move forward. You're not a victim, you're a survivor. 5. Preparing for problems. You unconsciously believe the same problem will reemerge even though the traumatic event happened long ago. Living like this prevents you from being present and truly having fun with your loved ones. 6. Forgetting big chunks of your life. An upbringing full of trauma can lead you to forget moments of your life. It's called blacking out. You may have a hard time remembering what happened, and it can be distressing when people remember things that you can't. But there are methods of therapy that may be able to help you remember if or when you're ready. 7. Feeling incomplete. Those of you who have been through severe trauma end up feeling as if a part of you is missing. Trauma can leave you feeling disconnected with life. It's a survival mechanism, a sort of disassociation. To survive, you build yourself a character or story that you thrive on, making it difficult for you to discover who you truly are. 8. Being attracted to unhealthy situations. Sometimes you unconsciously look for people who have the same traits as your abuser or abusers. Therefore, you may end up in a relationship or situation that is eerily similar to your past experience. This doesn't mean that you're looking for trouble, it's just your brain's way of attaching itself to similar circumstances. And 9, looking for external validation. Growing up in an abusive household can leave you feeling insecure. Trauma can impact you in such a way that as an adult, you look for other people's validation, such as your boss's approval or likes from friends on social media. You're just yearning to feel wanted. It's difficult to move forward in life after experiencing childhood trauma, and keep in mind you don't have to continue living that way. Talk to a close friend or family member. Ask for help and guidance. Overcoming trauma isn't gonna happen in a day, but I can assure you, fighting for a better life is worth it and it is possible.
Welcome to Candid Conversations, our interview segment where I am so excited, and it really gives me great joy and pleasure to actually have this guest who is her second time around, who is so full of overcoming so many obstacles and challenges in lives that many people actually don't make it out of, don't make it over, or don't experience better from it. And so today I want you to help me to welcome Mary Christ, who is going to share with us her story of overcoming childhood trauma and actually living her life in and through triumph. So, Mary, I want to welcome you to Candid Conversations again, where you get to share even more of your testimony of how you are now living even more of a triumphant life. And we're going to talk about and unpack your story of how you literally went from childhood trauma into now living your life on purpose and living your life in and through triumph. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me.
So
I'm really excited to be here. Oh, excuse me, sorry.
Yes, no, we are so delighted to have you and to hear your story. You can never hear too much of someone who is continuously and intentionally putting into practice in their lives becoming better. It is not something that you just wake up and it's just like a magical pill. It is something that you have to work at every single day. And you literally are the example and even the epitome of that, because life is truly of value and worth to you. You value your life. You know your life has meaning, and now you're putting in the work to make sure you maximize your life and your life's purpose. So with that being said, I want you to tell us a little bit about your life journey on the side of living life in and through trauma. Let's take it from the very beginning of your cognizant remembrance of trauma and what that was like even in and from your childhood.
So yes, when I was 4, I actually went to foster care. Um, what was interesting is the individual who ended up sending us there, they basically said like, oh, it's neglect or whatever the case may be. So we were taken away at a very, very, very young age. So it was myself, my twin, and my brother. Very, very, very traumatic. Had to, watch my mom, experience her children being taken away. And then on top of that, it was the aspect of having abuse and different things like that as well. Which, if you'd like, I can talk a little bit more about that, because I did write down some examples of some of the experiences that we had.
Absolutely. I would love for you to talk about it to the full extent of your comfortability, to allow others to know that they are not in this alone. There are many of people who have gone through experiences of trauma and who have dealt with it and who have been even what I like to call silent sufferers. So please, in a nutshell, give us an overview of what you experienced during those times and even how long that time frame lasted of these variations of childhood trauma.
Yes, of course. So, as I stated, I went when I was 4, my twin and I, and my brother, he was 2. He actually was so traumatized that even though he knew how to talk pretty well for his age, he actually stopped talking altogether. And a lot of what that had to do with, over the course of the 4 years that we were there, were they were physically, verbally, and mentally abusive. Physically, in the sense that it was beyond, just maybe a quick pat or something of that nature. No, it was switches, hangers, whatever they could pretty much get their hands on. And not sure if a lot of people are aware, but actually, when you are in foster care, your foster parents are not supposed to touch you at all. As far as discipline is concerned, it's, you know, pretty stringent as far as how far they can go, because you actually belong to the state. So you're actually some property, if you will. Not only that, but, child ethics and things of that nature, but primarily for the first purpose that I'm sharing. Um, but yeah, so they were physically abusive in that sense, mentally abusive in the sense that they, never wanted us to acknowledge our mom as our mom. They used to make us call her a negative name. We weren't allowed to call her mom. We weren't allowed to say that we loved her. And then as far as the verbal abuse, again, it was saying we're not worth anything, we never amount to anything, no one will want us. And, of course, even though those weren't our natural parents, when you're of such a young age, those things stick with you, to be told that you're not good enough and people don't like you. I remember specifically their son, I guess you can call him foster brother. I was 6 years old at the time because, as I stated, we were there for 4 years. Was like, I don't like you. I just don't like you. And how do you, even, I guess, get past that at that age? People who are supposed to protect you, people who are supposed to be there for you, you're supposed to be in a situation that's more helpful and safe, but you're in more danger than what you were when you were, at home. And that, led to a lot of other things, growing up, not feeling like I was worth anything, having a lot of self-confidence issues, making a lot of negative decisions and things of that nature, just based off of, again, those negative seeds being sown as a child.
Wow, Mary, first of all, I want to thank you for your transparency, because that is a lot. And for many people, it's very difficult to even recall situations and incidences of that nature without it having a negative or adverse effect upon them. And so with you all having experienced that for 4 years, you said, what
Mhm.
was it that was you guys exit from that? Was it that you guys finally was able to tell a teacher or someone in the surrounding area, a social worker? What got you all out of that negative atmosphere?
To be very honest, Lachelle, we were all alone. We were basically told by them, if we told anyone, that things would get a lot worse than what they were already. So we were constantly berated and intimidated. How we finally got out was, to my understanding, one of the family members basically was like a whistleblower and started, kind of sharing some of the things that they saw when they were coming, by to the house that we were experiencing. And my mom, basically the whole time while we were there, she was going back and forth to court and different things like that. And it was really just a function of making sure that when we returned home, that we had a stable home situation. But again, it was because they were very good at hiding the fact that there was abuse going on in the home and that they were neglecting us and that we may not eat for a couple of days, things of that nature. That, my mom, who frankly just simply isn't the best housekeeper, was subjected, to trauma on her end, watching her kids being taken away. And then, like I said, us going into that, abusive home. So, basically how we ended up, again, getting out was, the courts finally stepping in. And, to my understanding, people who would come by to the house kind of starting to point in that direction that maybe some things weren't right. And it was maybe we would do better by just going home.
Wow, that is very difficult to hear, and even harder to not become emotional by hearing such behavior that was going forth to such young children, where you all were at the tender, impressionable, most vulnerable stages of your life, because anything that happens from the age of 0 to 7 becomes foundation in your life. And so from you all experiencing that at such a young age, from you coming out of that, was there anything immediately put into place as far as therapy or as outlets or as counseling or any type of spiritual outlets to help you guys to heal or help you guys to work through those experiences that you went through with that family?
Yes, that's a great question. So basically, when we came home, it's mandatory that you do go to some kind of therapy, just to kind of decompress and things of that nature. It was definitely a long road. I would say that we were pretty much in and out of therapy until our early teens, all of us, whether it been on an individual or on a collective level. When we had to all go together as a family, we had to do family sessions as well as, again, individual sessions. I found those not to be as helpful, only because we had an experience when we were in foster care where, when we were in therapy, the therapist asked us to tell our mom that we loved her, and we shouted and we were excited about it. And we were severely punished by our foster parents. We had to stand in the corner for literal weeks at a time. From the time we woke up to the time we went to bed, when we came home from school, we had to stand literally in the corner. Okay, so fast forward to having to go to actual therapy sessions didn't necessarily leave the best taste, in my mouth personally. And I can't speak for my siblings, but I know it definitely didn't have a positive impact on me. It really wasn't until I got older, and I began to understand that I needed to find more of a spiritual path in order to really heal, that I started to get more on the lines of a transformation, that was more, I guess, therapeutic, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Wow, that's a long journey, as you said. And speaking of that, how can you say that had affected you from the time of coming out to even your teenhood, even to your early adult life? What were some of the effects that you saw were lingering adverse effects inside of your personal life?
Another great question. Um, as far as that's concerned, definitely lower self-confidence. Excuse me, definitely not feeling like I was worthwhile, or again, good enough. Have, again, as you pointed out, Michelle, having being told those kinds of negative things at such a young age, even if people around you moving forward tell you things, you have to reprogram yourself to believe that about yourself again. So for me, in the teenage years, dealing with things like um, associating with people who didn't really care about me, um, can think confusing, maybe people who had more abusive personalities with people who actually cared about me, right? Because for 4 years, our abusers were also our caregivers. So kind of having to deal with that those mixed signals and things of that nature. I'm working on repairing the relationship with my mom, not necessarily, blaming her for anything, and healing in that sense. Because again, it put a huge strain on our relationship. It made me very protective of my siblings, watching them go through things that they went through during that time. So it definitely had a profound impact. But thanks be to God, when I was turning 18, I was formally introduced to God, because I feel like a lot of people who maybe didn't grow up in the church or things like that, I definitely had a general understanding of who God was, but I didn't have a relationship on my own form with him. And an older woman who I went to school with when I was in college for a short amount of time, she actually introduced me to Christ. And, that was definitely a step in the right direction, for where I am today.
Wow, that's a lot. But I'm very thankful and grateful that she did give you an introduction to have an understanding of what a real relationship looks like, especially like you said, with so many people. It's very hard to distinguish, especially when abuse starts in childhood or trauma starts in childhood, to distinguish, what true love is, and if love is supposed to be associated with pain or with negative adverse conversations or indoctrinations. And so I'm grateful that you did experience a form of turnaround and change. And I know even after that introduction, it was still a journey. But the fact is that you still was introduced to what relationship from true love is all about. And then speaking of that, what became your why to truly begin to fight for life and to fight for who you knew you could be and what you know that you could have in life, even against everything that you experienced in life?
So for me, my why was to help prevent anyone from going through that again, in any way that I could, in any way that I can still, be it by education, be it by doing something like this where, I'm sharing and being fully transparent and vulnerable, because it's more important for me for individual to know that they don't have to, suffer in silence. They don't have to feel like they're all alone. We ended up, again, coming home, and, God really takes care of everything. They actually went through their own experiences. And, I ran into some family members later who, basically let me know that God really does fight all of your battles for you, to put it succinctly. But I never would want to gloat over anything like that, because at the end of the day, we are all worthy of his forgiveness, no matter what happens. But again, it's just letting people know my story, sharing. And you know what, and improving on myself. One of my biggest goals is to be the best version of myself possible. I have grown so much as a woman, naturally and spiritually, emotionally. And it really all started from, just changing my mindset, even changing my environment, not once but twice. Changing career paths, just stepping out and taking risks. Because one of the underlying things I always used to consider, when I was in foster care, was, it was the mentality of anything is better than, what I'm going through now. And now my mentality is anything is possible.
That is so powerful. Two things I want to lift up from what you said from that. Number one is forgiveness. Forgiveness is something that just about everyone struggles with, especially when it comes to an area of trauma, especially at the hands of someone else. And something that you said, that even though you may have gotten word that there was repercussions and there was things that those caretakers had to deal with, that you had forgiveness in your heart. And I know that doesn't come easy. And you really do have to be on a spiritual path to be able to allow that to precede you, because you can't do that in your own natural strength or power. And many people, for lack of forgiveness, live their life in regret, and they live their life living beneath their privilege, because their mind is stuck on rewind and replay on what happened to them. And they live their life according to their past history, and they utilize their time that they can be rewriting the story and living their life according to their destiny. They never see destiny because they're caught up in what happened in history, because it's too difficult for them to let go or to forgive, and they get stuck in that state or that experience. So can you just uplift that one factor? Then I want to come back to what you said about being a better version of you and working on you. So can you uplift that one word? Because that's something, even from a spiritual standpoint, we've been uplifting lately, the power of forgiveness, and how it's not for anybody else, but forgiveness is for your healing, it's for your health, it's for your well-being. So how has forgiveness played an integral part in your journey to healing?
Yes. So forgiveness, again, to how eloquently you put it, was a tremendous part. The first thing I had to do was forgive myself. That was number one. Not blaming myself for anything that happened, not saying that, it was my fault, or, I could have done this, I could have done that. It wasn't about any of that. We all have paths that we have to go through. That's why we have our own individual lives, right? The game of life. You some things you can control, some things you can't. So it was forgiving myself and understanding, what was and what was not in my control. Another component to that, Lachelle, is when you don't forgive people, right? You are attached to, frankly, whatever it is that God is going to do in that particular situation, judgment wise. It reminds me of a while ago, when I joined our ministry, when we were located back in Western New York. When our pastor was speaking about forgiveness, and he was saying how, you become attached to, and I'm going to use this word. I don't really like this word, because we know that it's not necessarily appropriate, but I'll just say their condemnation, or I'll say consequences. You become attached to their consequences. That's a better word. And because you become attached to their consequences, it can hold up your life and what you're going through. And so, again, coming to those types of realizations was just like, it's not worth it. And then, you think about it, a lot of people are not even really aware that they've hurt you the way they are. And that's why Christ says, if you take issue with someone, you're supposed to deal with it right then and right there, because a lot of times they've offended you and they don't even realize it. So it's not that they did those things and they thought that they were right or excusable, but at the same time, perhaps during those years, for whatever reason in their mind, they thought that that was the appropriate course of action for one reason or another, be it mental illness, whatever. They felt like that was the best course of action. So again, it was just more or less like, hey, I don't want my blessings being held up. I don't want to look like I'm 60 and I'm only in my 30s, kind of thing. I have to release myself from this situation, and move on, and just allow God to complete his work.
That's really excellent. And I'm glad you even brought up that secondary point, because that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand, that a lot of people in and through their past trauma and their past hurt, as the saying goes, hurt people hurt other people. But a lot of times what you don't hear, because very few people actually heal from their past hurt or their past trauma, which gives me great joy of even having this story and this actual show today, is that healed people can heal people. And if we could have more healed people, more whole people, bringing healing and wholeness to other people, opposed to holding other people to past pains or past regrets or past mistakes, imagine how much more we would be advanced and progress as a human race. And so it's so powerful, as you brought up, for us to understand the power of the effects that hurt and pain and trauma has on us. It has on our mind, it has on our body, because it keeps us in fight or flight mode. It keeps stress and our adrenaline in such a state that we're never relaxed. We're always looking at, who's out to get us or what's going to happen next. Like, you always have to, protect yourself or cover yourself. But when you allow yourself to actually heal and to actually operate in wholeness, it doesn't allow yourself to put other people in the place of like free of what they did, but at the same time you free yourself. And that's a lot of times what people don't know how to distinguish the two. They think their freedom is going to let other people off the hook, when in actuality other people are just perpetuating a cycle that they were inside of, but they were never offered or never accepted their journey of healing or wholeness. And so therefore they continue the cycle for generations on out. So I do want to commend you for taking that journey, because even people who are on spiritual journeys never fully incorporate that component of forgiveness. That's when they put their button away. I understand forgiveness, but you don't know what they did. You don't know what they said. You don't know how it made me feel. But not understanding, when you're able to release that from you, how much better that you will feel. That it does not give them a pass from what they did, but it gives you that freedom and that liberty to actually live this thing called life, and to enjoy life and have peace of life, and to really have the joy of life despite what happened to you in and through your life. And that's the power of going from trauma to triumph. Everything that we go through in life becomes a part of our story, so that we can go and build a bridge to a place of healing and wholeness, to go and show and tell others that they too don't have to stay where they are, that there is hope, that there is help, and that they can come out, and that there is a better way, and there is a brighter day, and that we can be a witness, and we can be an example and a model of that. Now, with that being said, does that just come at ease without daily work? Absolutely not. And this is why I asked you, what was your why and what was your fight to be able to say, I'm not going to stay like this? Because this is something you actually have to put into practice every single day, which brings me back to the point what you said about you making the decision of becoming a better version of you. Because when you understand the power that you have within you, and that your life has value, your life has worth, and that you want to make your life count and make an impact and a difference. And the part of your why is to make sure that anybody else in your pathway didn't have to go through it, or if they went through it, that you can help them to come out or direct them into their journey of healing. That's what life is supposed to look like. And so I commend you again for that, because again, many people, it's very difficult for them to even talk about those places that once were places of trauma or places of pain, because it opens up, that womb. But this is when you're in that true journey of healing and wholeness, because you can actually talk about it from the place of where it's a scar and no longer an open wound. And that simply means that you actually have healed from it. See, a lot of times people want to hide their scars, but a scar represents a place that something has healed. An open wound means that it is still happening and in the midst of it. But when you're able to allow people to see that you have a scar, it literally means that you overcame some level of opposition, some level of hurt or pain. And so your transparency and speaking from your scar alone is offering help, hope, therapy for people to know that now they too can get up, get out, and go and get the necessary help, start the necessary spiritual journey, and put into practice and place a holistic approach to seeing themselves made whole. So with all that being said, I want you to now begin to talk about the side of now you being on the triumphant side. You operated in your power. You're operating inside of who you are and what you've been called to do according to your life's purpose, your life legacy. Can you tell us a little bit about, number one, how long have you been on this triumphant side? And how has it been on this triumphant side opposed to being on the trauma side?
Great questions. And again, I really appreciate how you are pretty much putting together what I said so succinctly. As far as the triumphant side is concerned, my journey started in 2018. 2018 was a very important year for me. That is actually when I moved from Western New York to the Boston area. That was the first time that I moved out of town. I moved by myself. I moved for work. But that definitely was the start of my triumphant journey, was changing my environment first. Very, very, very important. I would say on top of that, once the environment has changed, my sphere of influence was began to change. And then I found, but I read the book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. Then I also read two other books, The Power of Now, I believe it's called. And then there's a sister book to that escapes me right now, but they're by the same author. But essentially, all the books cumulatively had the same message, and that you have the power within to make a difference in your own life. Something I heard recently was, when things go good, it's your fault, and when things go bad, it's your fault too. Taking responsibility for my actions, taking responsibility for my finances, taking responsibility for my body, not putting things in there that don't belong there, controlling, my eating, things of that nature, which help parallel that physical transformation that I've experienced as well. So those were definitely essential factors in my transformation. Doing things like self-care, again, being mindful. Mindfulness was huge. That I probably would say that and changing my surroundings were man, just huge factors for sure.
So that's also a lot to unpack. Several things I want to uplift from that, because like you said, environment plays a very large part of how we present ourselves according to our subconscious mind, our psyche, how we perceive things, because a lot of times people do become products of their environment. You don't have to, but many times people don't understand that there is better and greater out there, because all they can see is what they see. They cannot see themselves beyond it. They can't see themselves over it. They just get stuck inside of it. And so I want to uplift that, because it's so important for you to make up your mind that things are going to change. You have to make that decision. No one else can change your mind for you. And from you changing your environment and changing your surroundings and changing your circles of influences and even changing your practices, it allowed you to begin to go within to see who you were. Because a lot of times people don't understand who they are, what they possess, or let alone what they've been called to do, because all they see or know themselves are according to the indoctrinations or negative conversations or even the environments that they grew up around, and they generally just perpetuate that. And you'll hear people say, well, this is all I knew, or this is how I grew up, or this is how everybody else did it. And no longer are they individuals, they are just products of what the masses are doing, not understanding the power of their authenticity of how they are as an individual and what difference they were created and the impact they were created to make from that. And also what you saying that and incorporating self-care and even reading books about the power that you possess to make decisions and choices that equals our consequences, because that's what you was basically saying. See, many people feel like if they just use their trauma as keeping them in their place of in a place of being a victim, then they can proceed with that, and then they can get a lot of pity, and that will make them feel good, and that's what's going to help them to overcome that trauma. But in actuality, that allows your scars to stay as open wounds and never heal. But when you take a stand and say, I am no longer going to be a victim, I am no longer going to live in a pity party, but I am going to make up my mind that my life is predicated upon the choices, the decisions, and that will be the consequences that I will see in my life. See, many people think consequences are just from a negative connotation, but in actuality, it's the sum total of the choices and the decisions that you make. And according to that, I want you to even uplift the transformation that you've experienced and even in weight loss, because through this journey, you experience a great deal of weight gain. So can you even tell us a little bit about that, and then what you put into practice for that weight loss journey? And if you don't mind sharing even how much weight loss you actually encountered through that journey.
Yes, of course. So as far as the weight gain was concerned, a lot of it came from I got on birth control at a very, very, very young age, and it was the shot. And one of the effects of the shot is that you will put on a lot of pounds. I went from being, I think I was around like 140 or so, 135, and I went from being around that weight to at my very heaviest, I got up to 240 pounds. So a huge, huge amount of weight that I gained. The majority of the weight that I gained, though, was between 2008, because around 2008 I was hovering around about 190, not a healthy weight at all, definitely, for my height, not great. But I went from there and I just ballooned. Like I went into the 200s and I stayed there for almost 10 years, and that was definitely difficult. I definitely affected my view of myself even more so. Not being able to buy certain clothes that I used to be able to buy, and things of that nature. But as far as implementation concerned, again, it was just me making a conscious decision that food wasn't worth my life. I love to eat. I grew up on, all of the Black classics, the mac and cheese and things of that nature. And they're all right every once in a while, but at the same time, like someone significant said to me, it's what good food tastes like, so it's not about, living to eat, you have to eat to live, so that was definitely the I would say the mindset shift that definitely occurred that allowed me to keep the weight off, because a lot of people lose weight and then, it gets back on and it stays on and then they add more weight on top of that. But I'm very proud to say that, since I started on this journey, I've been able to maintain my weight. I have lost in total around about 90 pounds from my heaviest. So definitely a lot. I think the least that I've weighed as of recent has been around 150 or so. And I would say if I do gain any weight, it's maybe like 10 pounds at the most. And I laugh to myself because I call them my vanity pounds that I have to, take off now. But I smile about that because I remember when I was, 240, 218, things of that nature. And, I would say, oh man, I'll be so happy if I'm just 190. And, now I'm like, oh my gosh, if I see, extra weight coming on, I'm like, oh no, I need to discipline myself right away, and make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to maintain good health. Because as we know, good health is wealth as well.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. Your health is your wealth. It doesn't matter what possessions you have in life. If you don't have good health, you can enjoy those things of life. I want to just commend you. A 90-pound weight loss. I mean, that is staggering. That perspective alone, that's something that people struggle with for a whole lifetime. And to lose that amount of weight, that's literally like losing a person. And one thing that you keep going back to is mindset. And a lot of times people don't understand the power of your mind. The mind is the most powerful tool that you have. And it is not until you get to the place of transforming your mind by renewing it every single day. And what happens is, just like weight loss, people try this diet or they try that. They literally try it. They try to talk positive. They try prayer. They try spiritual journey. They try things out, but they don't make it their new normal. They don't make it a lifestyle. Therefore, they go right back to their old practices because they don't make it a lifestyle. And so what you keep bringing up is that you have been consistently working on you because this is your lifestyle. It's a daily practice. And what happens is, a lot of times people feel like, because I work for 2 days, I can take 2 weeks off, or I work for 2 weeks, so I can take 2 days off. Then the 2 days turns into 2 months, then 2 years. And then people wonder, how did I get back here? Because you have to train your brain every single day. And a lot of times, even from a spiritual standpoint, people say, well, I have God, I have Jesus, and he's just going to work it all out. And this is what we have to understand. Everything in life is based upon relationship. Just like what you said, you were introduced to Christ at 18 years old. That's a relationship. And in and through relationship, it takes two. It's the power of partnership. And so God doesn't just do things for you. He works through you. He will give you the wisdom and the insight and the supernatural strength to be able to do the things that you couldn't do in your own natural power or your own natural strength, like losing 90 pounds. That is a very difficult thing to do on your own. So the mere fact that you are consistently working on self without beating yourself up, without even what you had said earlier, and I love how you auto-corrected it, was condemnation. Because even as we are in God through Christ, there's no condemnation. There is conviction, but conviction is just an indicator to say, wow, I know this isn't right, so let me go in this route, because I know doing this or taking place in these things is going to lead down to this road with these consequences. And I've been down this road and I know what this road leads to. And I know now I'm on this pathway. So in order for me to stay on this pathway, I have to consistently put these things into practice so that I can continuously live from a scar opposed to an open wound. And this is what I commend you for, that you are doing the heart work, the life work on a daily basis. That is the holistic approach. It cannot just be, well, I love God and he's just going to work it out. It has to be from what we like to call a holistic five arena approach, and that's spiritually, then that's mentally and emotionally, then that's physically, your body, your health, which you have put into place, then that's relationally, how you interact with others, not from a place of hurt or pain or pity, but from a place of power, from a place of healing, from a place of wholeness, and even financially. We were created to be whole and to live from the place of abundance in all of those areas, because those are promises that God has given us, that we should have an abundant life. We should have a completed life, not a depleted life. And see, many people feel like, well, I'm completed in this area, but I'm completely depleted in 3 other areas. And see, those 3 other areas will eclipse even that area you may feel like you're completed in. That's still not a holistic life. But when you take the route of working on self every single day, that's what institutes and puts into practice that holistic life and living life from the inside out, which simply means living life on purpose, because now you see and know that your life has purpose and you put into practice making an impact and a difference in everything that you do. So with all of that being said, I want you to now to talk to the audience, talk to those people who may not be on the side of triumph, who may not have gotten to the side of crossing the bridge, of coming to that place of healing, or entering in that place of understanding the power of wholeness. So I want you to begin to talk to that person who is still struggling, or the person who hasn't even started the journey because they didn't even know that they can come out. They might have thought this is all that life has to offer me, or I might have been dealt a wrong hand of cards in life, or I'm just unlucky, or, God just doesn't even love me, or even I'm being punished for all of these things happening to me. I want you to speak to those people who are in the midst of their trauma and don't know where to start. I just want you to give them some quick nuggets of hope and help, to allow them to understand that even though their journey may not be your journey and their experiences may not be your experience, because there's various forms of trauma, but from a principle standpoint, I just want you to speak to them and allow them to see and to know how they can get out and what steps they can begin to do to start that journey to healing and to begin to cross that bridge over to their place of triumph.
Yes, of course. And also, too, I wanted to answer the other part of the question that you asked me, and that's how does it feel to be on the other side of triumph? And then a little segue actually right into this next point. And let me tell you, it's rewarding. It's like you've always seen yourself at a particular place, and when you get there, it's like, wow. I'm telling you, if you want to find something to be addicted to, let it be accomplishment. One of the things that I had to start doing with myself was giving myself rewards. I am I'm a little spoiled, so it's like I have to do a little extra with myself to motivate myself, but that's okay, because that's another step as well. You have to know yourself. If if you don't know yourself and you're going through life, you're going to find a lot of challenges, because if you don't know yourself, you don't know how to respond to things. You don't know how to adapt. You don't know how to, adjust and overcome, because you don't even know what sets you off. You don't understand what you like and what you don't like, what you will and what you won't go for. So it's really important to have that aspect tied in as well. Oh my goodness. I'm um I, I'm sorry, I saw the phone go black and I was like, no, it's happening again. But excuse me. So yes, to get back into it, yes. Um Number one, I would say understand your worth. Okay. And this goes into like if you're looking for someone to be within a relationship, or again, you're looking as far as triumph is concerned, you need to understand your own worth. If you don't value yourself, no one else is going to see you of value. It's not possible. Your own self-view is really how others will perceive you, believe it or not, because of you put out certain energy. It'll come out in the way you dress, it'll come out in the way you carry yourself, it'll come out in the way that you talk, it'll come out in your work ethic. Find something that you're really passionate about and that you want to live for. That's really important. And if you don't have anything externally to live for, I'm going to give you a secret. You live for you. You are worth that time. You invest that time into you. You are important. You are of value. And again, to go into another tip to try to implement, I will say, because, and I'm auto correcting on the try because I want to actually wedge in another little segment, and that be committed to things. Be definitive. Don't say I'll get to it, I might, I may, I'll try. Be definite. I will do it. I am gonna get up. I promise, if you say something to yourself like, oh, I'll try to eat better, you will be doing the same things you used to do, because your brain recognizes your own voice. So if you are stern with your brain and you say, hey, we're going to do this, I'm a woman of worth, I'm excellent, I represent God's kingdom, so on and so forth, positive things. Affirmations are one of the regimens that I definitely have in place. It's huge. We have one in our ministry that we say every single day, and it's titled Create the Day. Tools like that are extremely beneficial. But if I were to say on a personal level, find something that you are passionate about. Find someone that you are passionate about, and that should be you. If you do it for you, you will be able to do it for others. If you invest that time into you, you will be able to have that return on investment and benefit others. You have to pour that time and that initiative into yourself. But the first thing is you have to be thoroughly convinced that you're worth that time to spend. I see instances where people will do things like bury themselves with people and all kinds of stuff. And a lot of it just comes from, again, you not understanding that at the end of the day, you have to live with you. You have to be comfortable in your own skin, and you need to be able to go out on a limb for yourself, because that's when you really start doing amazing things. I'm telling you, I went in 2018. Another thing that I was experiencing was homelessness. 2018 was also the year where I was considering taking my life. 2018 was literally, if I was to say my new birthday, my new birth year, that was definitely, my new life beginning during that year. So again, treat yourself with positive things. Say, okay, well, if I get up and I do 20 minutes of exercising, I'll quote unquote treat myself to some fruit. Don't eat a cookie, okay? It's important. Unless it's a healthy cookie. But treat yourself. Like, for example, I'll say, oh man, I want something sweet, I'll treat myself to raisins. And that might again sound a little facetious and silly on the surface, but I promise it's little changes like that that have helped me. And my weight loss journey is not over. I have a goal to get down to between about 130 and 140. Why? Because even though I'm not super focused on the numerical value, I know that, again, I'm on the path of becoming the best version of myself. Start with small milestones, invest time into yourself. Remember that if no one else will be your friend, you will be your own friend. Okay. Remember in the spiritual arena that you can cast your cares upon him because he cares for you. And, as the song used to say back in the 90s, be encouraged. Okay. No matter what's going on. I started to turn into my pastor right there, but I'm going to put a pin in it. But seriously, loves, like, I can't stress that enough. Just, even if you got to give yourself a hug or whatever it is that you need to do, do it and be consistent with it.
I greatly thank you for that. That was a lot, and it was really very practical tips, and that's what I love about it. Because see, most of the time people look at things as from a finished product, and they get overwhelmed because they feel like it's so much work that has to be done. Where do I start? There's a saying that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. You have to take the first step, and then take the next step, and then take the next step. And that's in all areas of life, even when it comes to, physical workout. If you can't run, jog. If you can't jog, walk. You know, these are simple practices that you can put into place to start seeing levels of change that also, what you said, will breed encouragement. Because when you start even seeing things, and even like weight loss, wow, I lost those ounces, then those ounces turned into pounds, the pounds turned into tens of pounds, your tens of pounds turned into 90 pounds, and you're still on the journey. And like you said, it's not about the numerical value, it's about the health of it all. And you want the best version of you, and the best version of you is the authentic you. It's the original you that most people never get to meet, because they're so busy covering and smothering it and putting it into outlets to try to feed the voids and the hurts and the pains of the past, that they never really get to a place of unpacking that, to be able to, how I like to put it, is to deal, feel, so that you can heal. See, many people don't like the feel, so they want to numb the pain. But in order to deal with the pain, you have to feel the pain so that you can begin to heal the pain. Generally, any level of wounds is associated with some level of pain, but the pain was not meant to last always. But a part of that pain is to get you to your place of recovery. And I want to, also uplift the point of what you said, affirmations. Your conversation and your thoughts, those two things alone, people think that your natural womb, your WOMB, that a woman has, is your birthing place, your place of where seeds are planted. But the greatest womb that you have is your mind, where your thoughts are your seeds. And when you speak your thoughts, you actually create it. Affirmations will determine what you will see inside of your life. Someone else can speak life to you, and you can come back and speak death over that life, because you don't speak it from a place of divinity. You don't speak from a place of I am. Most people speak from a place of I hope, I wish, I think, if it could, if it would. But when you understand the power of I am, even on this platform is based off of a scripture, Psalm 139:14, that says, I praise God. Why? Because I am is personal, fearfully and wonderfully made. I am a marvelous work of God. And when you speak anything less than you being a masterpiece, you are saying that God makes garbage. He makes trash, and you are a treasure. You are a masterpiece of God that there is no duplicate of. That's how original you are. And it is time for all of us to go to even deeper places of understanding who we are in our original state of being. And that is an original masterpiece made by the master of all of creation, of all of the universe. The universe is a creation the same way we are a creation, and we were created as a masterpiece. So you have to declare that every single day, no matter how broken you may feel, no matter how down you may be. You have to speak it how it's supposed to be, not how it is, not how it was, not how other people are saying. You have to speak from the place of healing and the place from wholeness. And when you start speaking it and thinking it, you'll start seeing it made manifest in your life. So as we get ready to close, I want you to do two more things. I just want you to give us a quick overview of some of the things that you have actually been able to experience now that you're on this side of triumph, so that you can encourage others that this thing is not just something to brag about, but it truly is a lifestyle. So just talk about some of the open door opportunities and some of the networking and some of the things that you've been able to achieve and to accomplish that you know that you wouldn't experience if you would have stayed in that place of trauma.
So first of all, I went from being overlooked to overbooked. I used to always be, the friend who they'd call and they talk to you for an hour and get all of the quote unquote advice they can get, and they turn around and do something opposite, to people seeking me out for information. How do I take care of this? What do I do? One of the most rewarding things is, and again, this is just being now in the financial arena, which is another part of the triumph as well. Going from being a CNA, working doubles, watching the sun come up from the unit, to opening accounts, assisting people making financial decisions and things of that nature. To have people come in like, Mary, I have $500,000. What do I do? I just sold this. Do you know about that? I recently, as some of you may know, if you are on my channel or know me personally, have transitioned into going into mortgages and becoming a licensed loan originator. And God has been sending me individuals who, have questions about it on a preliminary stage before I've even fully walked into that. But again, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, and, you can always transition into that next phase, of greater. So again, it's people coming in saying, hey, do you know about a 1031 exchange? Well, as a matter of fact, I do. Well, do you know what I need to do in order to protect myself? Well, as a matter of fact, I do. Whereas before I was, giving information about, bedpans, but, and it's not to be dismissive or condescending about that kind of work, because I in my heart, again, this is knowing myself, I'm a caregiver, I am a nurturer, but I'm also a warrior. I'm also one who's on the front lines, who's going to make things happen. So, again, it's just merging all of those things together. So I hope I'm answering your question. I don't want to talk in circles, but to put it all summed up, I would say, again, just being sought out for that information, and having people who want to have a genuine connection with me, from going from people who didn't want to sit with me and didn't want to talk to me because I had albinism or, some other quote unquote shortcomings, to, hearing people say, oh my goodness, you're so beautiful. And oh my goodness, you dress so nice, or whatever the case may be. And, I don't get tired of hearing any of that, because I remember hearing the opposite of it all the time. And all it does is reaffirm this, and this is important, what I already believe about myself, in the sense that I am, fearlessly and wonderfully made, that God doesn't make junk. Lachelle just pointed out. So if he doesn't make junk, if I'm a treasure, then yeah, I should hear that I'm beautiful. And yes, I should hear, that I'm valuable. And yes, I should hear these different these reaffirmations, if you will. So I would definitely say that's a key component to, being on this side of the journey. And again, it still continues. My goal is to come, later on down the line and have even more tremendous things, that happen. My thing I'm coming to you guys to talk about is how God broke the curse, and I am the first millionaire in my family.
Listen, I know this is a show, but I was just over here just rejoicing and having my own little praise party, because I actually have seen your journey, and I've seen you literally on opposing opposite sides of the spectrum, going through things that may be unimaginable in most people's mind, but to see you come out on top And like you said, what most people don't understand, there is no true point of arrival in life. There's no such thing as I have arrived. Life is a journey that's supposed to get better and better every day in every way. And this is why we have to have two things: an attitude of gratitude and also an attitude of anticipation and expectation. Because when you have an attitude of gratitude, you are not thinking about what you don't have, what didn't go right. You are thankful and grateful, and you're putting out for more things to come to you because you have an attitude of gratefulness. And then that power of I am, when you understand that you are your own walking, talking billboard, and people will treat you according to how you present and put yourself out there. We are all made up of energy, and people can feel your energy and they'll feed off of your energy. And I love how you put it, because that's one of my phrases, that literally when you change your mind, you change your life. And it'll take you from going from overlooked to being overbooked, because we are natural resources. We were put in this earth to be a blessing to it, and for the earth to be a blessing back unto us, because we are all creations. And so with that being said, when we understand the power that we possess, and that we all have some level of gift and talents and abilities or skill sets to make a difference and to be a solution to someone else's problem, when we understand that we are a solutionist, people will seek us out for that information that they actually will put into practice, and that they actually will value the information that we're giving, and not just take advantage or not, dismiss what we're giving, or, what we have to offer, but they will see the value and worth, because we're presenting it as we are of value. So Mary, I thank you. I'm so excited for your life journey. I thank God for what he has done in and through you, and how you're consistently staying open to becoming better. Most people will get to a certain point and say, oh, well, I made it so far, I'm just going to stop here. But you understand that every day in every way, your life has to become better and better. So with that being said, I want you to just quickly pray for all of those who are listening today, and allow them to know that this isn't just your story, your journey, but these are a set of principles that you have prescribed to, that anyone can tap into, that they too can see the transformation and go from trauma into triumph. But it's not an overnight thing. It's an everyday journey and process, that every day it will get better. Every day you will see a better version of yourself, and to the point where you won't even be able to recognize yourself anymore, because who you are according to your authentic self doesn't look anything like yourself who was shrouded in the trauma or the pain or the hurt or the indoctrinations or the negative conversation. And that's what true breakthrough is. And so I want you to just pray that breakthrough over the audience life, who may again be in the midst of struggle, or who didn't even know that this was an option. They didn't even know that they could have triumph. I just want you to pray triumph over their life, and allow them to know that they do have hope, and that there is help for them, and that there is better that awaits them if they're willing to believe it and receive it.
Hallelujah. Well, let us go before his throne of grace and make our requests known. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, first and foremost, we want to give you praise. We want to give you glory. We want to exalt your holy name on today. Thank you so much for all of the lives that will be impacted by this message, Father. Thank you so much for allowing me to have the strength and mental capacity to be fully transparent. God, I pray your encouragement, your love, your unconditional love that only you can provide over those who need it right now, Father. A lot of people are hurting, and they need help and they need hope, God. And we know that you are the true deliverer. And we ask in the name of your Son, Christ Jesus, that even now, Father, those who are feeling discouraged, those who are feeling all alone, those who are feeling that there is no way out, Lord, that you let them know that they have the control, Lord, that you have snatched the keys from the enemy, putting the power and the dominion back where it belongs, and that is with man. And as we go forth, Father, during this time, Father, as we move forward during our, not during, but on our path of life, as we continue to seek you and only you, Father, allow us again to know that we have the victory, that we are triumphant, and that nothing is impossible with you, Father. That with man, you know, there are limitations, God, but with you, all things are possible, and that you have put in each and every last one of us that God given gift, that God given talent to unlock in our true potential, Father, and live our best lives, being the best possible versions of ourselves. Allow us, Lord, to have more discipline over our mind, our mouth, and our movements. Allow those, Father, who are wondering what they can do to understand again that you only have to put one foot in front of another and things will begin to come together. And God, as we in this broadcast, as we wrap up this candid conversation, Lord, we thank you for all of the souls that are touched, all of the lives that are transformed, all of those who feel again your unconditional love, and all those who will continue to seek out this awesome, amazing channel for not just surface advice, but for life-changing information, that it will get better and better. And all of these things, again, we ask in Christ Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, as you said, for being transparent, because when you're able to feel and deal with places that were once trauma, this is how true healing is erected. I want to leave you all with the scripture, Mark 9:23. All things are possible to them that believe. I want you to know that there is help and there is hope for you. If you are struggling or you are in the midst of trauma, I want to leave you with different variations of entities that can assist you in your journey. I don't want you to think that, oh, that sounds good for Mary, but I don't think that I can do it. I want you to know that there are actual agencies and places that are waiting to assist you in your journey to becoming better, so that you can go from being shrouded in trauma and pain into your place of triumph and your life making a difference and an impact. Thank you for joining us today, and stay tuned so that you can hear more stories of transformation, of how they were able to